So good afternoon, everybody. Welcome you to the talk on Brazil on Debates, Democracy and Conflict, organized by the Oñati community. As most of you already know, the Oñati community is a project of the Oñati International Institute for Sociology of Law, brings together alumni, faculty, and friends of the Institute, and wish to be connected and networked for all kinds of academic success initiatives and social activities, such as joint projects, social parallel gatherings around academic events, organizing future events, webinars, and we are, of course, very happy to support all of them. We have a dynamic platform for all this, oñati.community, with blog posts, our useful corner on grants and jobs, information on Basque culture, so we invite all of you to join us. Till now, we have had several successful webinars on poverty, pandemic, protest on policy in the Global South, social legal implication of the COVID pandemic in Africa, conflict and its impact on security in the case of Afghanistan, discussion if the prison abolition has a chance, how to handbook the sociology of law. So many webinars. All these discussions have been uploaded to our new YouTube channel. I will put the links later in the chat. And I would like also to thank all of you for joining us, and especially the new scientific director of the Institute. Thank you, Sabine Frerichs. She's among us. So thank you for attending this webinar. And also thank you, José Ramón Bengoechea, the co-director of the Oñati community, for being here. And I think you can introduce already our speakers. So José Ramón, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Susana. Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are. It's a pleasure to be able to present our speakers. As you know, when some of you who have been following these webinars, whenever we've had some major events taking place in, especially in Latin America, which we follow very closely, we have held a webinar about that event, elections or other, the Constitutional Convention in Chile, and that sort of events. And Brazil, it's not the first time that we deal with such a fascinating and complicated country, which has just had elections, the result of which were a relief for many people around the world, and many more in Brazil. And they were also a high disappointment for another very marked group, especially in Brazil, and probably the same type of ideological grouping as the ones who are now disappointed of the result that they thought they were going to be getting in the United States. I mean, of course, the Republicans, who, as we will probably find out through the course of the webinar, share some interesting cultural ideological features with the losers of the Brazil election. But not only that cultural comparison, also major questions about democracy and the functioning of the democratic system were at play in the Brazilian election as well. So although it's a webinar that focuses on Brazil, I'm sure that it is going to raise more important questions, also global questions about democratic systems as well. So in order to discuss the results of the election, the nature of the election, and the process in Brazil, we have three very good and fantastic speakers, and I'm just going to briefly introduce them. Fiammetta Bonfigli, she's an Italian scholar who lives in Brazil, has been living there since 2014, currently a professor at the law faculty in Federal Universidad de Espíritu Santo. And she has a postdoc at La Salle in Porto Alegre, where she published her research on social movements and the law in 2013 concerning protests in Brazil. She has a PhD in sociology of law from the Università degli Studi di Milano in Italy, and she did her master's studies at our very prestigious International Master in Sociology of Law at Oñati. And her ongoing researches are focusing on state crime, police violence, and transitional justice, an area where she's intensifying her work, especially in the future. She will be also chairing the session. She will be speaking and chairing. And next will be Fernando Goya Maldonado, who has a PhD in democracy of the 21st century from the doctoral program of the Center of Social Studies at Coimbra. So he's also a former Oñati master student, and therefore he exemplifies this connection, very important connection between Oñati and Coimbra. So he graduated in law and social sciences at the Federal University of Rio Grande do Sul in Brazil. He's an academic with interdisciplinary experience with researches and practices in the area of law, sociology, development, political economy, environment, and also transitional justice. And is a reviewer of several journals and a former researcher for the European Research Council. And last not least, Tayla Fernandez Conceição is a Brazilian human rights lawyer, social scientist, photographer, and PhD candidate in sociology of law at Federal Fluminense University in Rio de Janeiro. She was a substitute professor at the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro in legal sociology and anthropology, and works interdisciplinary with intersections between art, criminology, traditional population, popular culture, and Brazilian social thought. So I think we have three very good speakers, and with any further ado, I give the floor to Fiammetta, who is going to speak and moderate. And I mute myself now.
Thank you, José Ramón. And thank you for the invitation and the interest that we received on our topic. We know that Brazil at this moment is at the center of very strong attention from the international community, and of course the Oñati community couldn't be out of this. And I'm very happy to, at least virtually, to be here again with a lot of friends and colleagues. Among them also my co-speakers today, Fernando and Tayla, are not only colleagues, but are friends. So I'm very happy to have this kind of space that is both academic, but also formal. So I will explain how we will organize the debate. Each of us will talk for like 10 minutes. First, Fernando, then me, and then Tayla. And at the end, we will have like 20-30 minutes of debate and to answer questions that you can, of course, write in the chat, and I will look at them at the end, and I will, try to organize the debate and try to chair as I can. So I'm the only one who is not going to present any image, but my two colleagues will. So we will, as you see, we will focus on three different topics. First, Fernando will focus more on the recent elections and the conflict that there was previous and after the elections. I will focus on the topic of institutional violence and police violence and how it is embedded in institutional racism in Brazil. And then Tayla will focus on a very, very important question that is both social, environmental, economical, and political question. That is the thing of Amazonia conflict and environmental issue in the area, in such an area that is important for a world point of view and not only from a Brazilian point of view. So without any further delay, Fernando, you can start, and I will mute myself too.
Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. I know that we are a lot of people from a lot of places of the world, and this is really nice. I'd like to, are you listening? Okay, Fiammetta, can you give me a heads up? Okay. I would like first to, thank you, Oñati, José Ramón, that I haven't seen for a while. It's really nice to see you, Professor Susana. That's the personification of Oñati. You cannot think of Oñati without thinking about Susana. It was such a great time of my master there. I learned so much. I would like to extend my greetings also to Fiammetta, a dear friend, Tayla, that I don't know much, but I'm pretty sure that we're going to have very much to share. I will try to keep the 10 minutes so we can, debate and we can, have more dialogue. I think it's more important. Please let me know if you didn't understand anything about my English. It's, we're in Brazil, sometimes it happens. So we have the chat there. Fiametta can help me if something appears. Well, we don't have much time, so let's go. Today, I'll be talking a bit about the elections and democracy crisis in Brazil as an institutional and a social point of view. But beyond trying to find any theoretical answer, as far as I think it's too early for that, particularly related with the elections, I would like to share some of the phenomena and the problems that we are facing through the perspective of and principles of sociology of law, a bit of, at least. The thing that I want to try to bring to you today, and I will use, and I hope I won't have any technical problem, but we sort it out. Happen. It's a bit of a pictures and information while I talk to you, and trying to show this distinction of law in action and law in the books that we all study and find important as being a sociological perspective of law. So I use my first picture with that idea. That is the picture that is the flag that we brought in the talking. That's the flag and the bath towels. It means a good representation. So I'll do the sharing of the. Hope this works. Sharing the screen. Share. Okay, I hope you've seen that's my talking. I don't want to show you that. So the first thing that I want to show you is this. Fiametta, you're seeing okay? You're all saying okay? Okay. Is this, this idea, I try to find to bring to you the flag and the bath towels. This is being sold for the election. And for me, that was very representative because it's a social thing. It's in the streets. It represents what Brazil was dealing and still dealing now. So you see the conflict here. Bolsonaro is represented with the presidential slash, and above him is the Brazilian flag. So Bolsonaro don't have as the opposite reality in Brazil, a labor flag as Lula has. It's not a political flag, it's the Brazil. So one of the things that we're dealing here is this nationalism that is disconnecting reality for some people. And for that, I want to show you some pictures, some videos, and just to give a glimpse, because if I wanted to explain these things, I won't be possible. So it's better to see sometimes. It's important to say that this picture is from Datafolha. I put the link there in the comments, okay? It's not mine. You have probably legal issues now of the picture, so please let this know. I need to move this. Okay, perfect. So the second thing that I want to show you guys is this guy that is just an example. Where is the sound? Okay, perfect. Okay. After the elections, it started a movement, a social movement of stopping the streets and contesting the elections. Okay, and we're dealing with this kind of people, some of them, but they feel. So the disconnection of the reality, it's something that amused me during this reality. The second one, I hope you're seeing okay. If not, Fiametta, let me know. Okay. The thing is, we need freedom of expression. Okay, it's the freedom of expression at the top. And she's saying, I don't want anyone to eat my dog. Okay, as we would with Lula, became, I don't know, whatever that eats dogs. You know, this is the other one it became a joke in Brazil. This guy tried to stop a truck in these barriers they are doing in the streets and in this, main roads of Brazil, and he went to the for 30 kilometers away. Okay, so this is, I'm trying to show you the sense of what's going on in a very insane level of Brazil. But that's not something that happened by chance, and that's the thing. Look, this is the last video. It's all in Portuguese. I'm not gonna let you, listen to this. It's not, but this is the police coming to one of the riots. Okay, look, he's saying this. Look.
Sorry, I cannot. We cannot. At least I cannot hear the sound.
Okay, I'll show you, share this later on. And they are saying we need to resist 72 hours, and then we're gonna have now the presidential possibility of annulating or finishing these elections. So going back to you without sharing, I'm gonna open my things. Okay. So what we have been seeing in Brazil, okay? I think we are seeing it's the collapse or the shortcomings of democracy, okay? And what I want to tell you, I'm reaching 6 minutes, I want to run a bit. One of the things that, we studied at SES and I've been working with is the tension between democracy and capitalism. Particularly because democracy have a more potential of redistributive, okay, system. So what we have been seeing is the reduction of democracy to the procedural proceedings, just elections. It's like the idea of Schumpeter's. You should elect officials and they run. We don't have a much more participatory perspective. However, we have been seeing in the developments of the countries in elections the last few years of great opening to right-wing institutions, political parties, and social cohesion. And this is something that I think is taking this democracy that was built, particularly in the periphery, or some people thought of global south, as a institutional level to take the global national decisions or local or state decisions to enter in I'm going to get the word, to collapse, okay? And this is a second moment of the logic of the capitalist system facing, disrupting the political system. Of course, we don't have a participatory democracy in Brazil, or as far as I know, not even in the European countries. But what this prerogative and overload that we can see now is that people that in once believe it or thought that democracy was a way of conducing the political situation in a country became just not believing this. So it's many theories that are being unfolded now. Fiametta shows us one text of Castro Rocha also that's talking that Brazil is a laboratory of a parallel reality. I think we are facing a bit that also. This is a movement that came from Rio de Janeiro, because Bolsonaro is from Rio de Janeiro, and was taken to the national level, okay? This thing that you don't know what is the reality, what is the post-truth, and this disinformation and conspiration theory that are frequently now insufflated by Twitter, by other platforms, okay? And one thing that for me it's important is this liberal democratic canyon of the hegemonic democracy has been challenged by the Labour Party. Of course, we had a lot of things of corruption. I saw that I just passed for the 10 minutes. I'm going on to finish. But the reality in Brazil is we had such a little bit of a social change, and the right wings said, no, okay, that's too much for democracy. Let's face it, that democracy don't build that. Another thing that I want to talk to you later on in the chatting is this heterogeneous state of Brazil, because we cannot think Brazil as one state. It's too big. It's happening many things, and with that, it's a use of power. I'm finishing. Power, political domination, and the use that Fiametta is going to enter definitely is the use of the police too. And the police was also in the election day, barrier people to go to the election. And so we're facing this collapse of the democracy in Brazil, in a sense, at this moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Fernando. I'm sure we can develop a lot of issues because it's very complex and it's very a huge topic. So I think we can develop in the debate. I will talk other 10 minutes and then I will leave the floor to Tyler. So taking this last inch about police and institutional violence in Brazil, also these last elections saw the fight, the conflict between forces of the judiciary powers, being as, for example, the Alexandre de Moraes, that is the judge that was going to check the legality and legitimacy of the election process, that was challenged by the police corps that is emerged as something like a political party in Brazil, and what is strangest is like it's the highway police. So it's the police that is supposed to check the highways and to do controls if there is a suspicious or something suspicious coming out. So the day of the election, the railroad police, the highway police blocked entire streets, for some people in northeastern part of Brazil, that is the part where most votes go to the Workers' Party of Lula. So the police was closing the streets and to avoiding people to go to vote or to slow people to go to vote. This in complete disobedience to the judiciary power order not to do police operations in the day of the elections. So we have this first presence of the police, of an institutional corps, like an institutional body of the democratic state that is actually impeding people to vote and working as something like a political party. No? This first moment, this body of police force was also present during these blockades that Fernando was showing in protest against the election of Lula. The police was supposed to make people go out of the streets and to stop the blockades, but they didn't do that, and it was such a shock for at least the rule of law or a basic function of the public institutions in Brazil, to see that the police was actually working as a police force as a political party against judiciary decisions, no? Against democracy or electoral democracy at least. So this is an important point of view. This is something that we have to say, that institutional violence, especially from the various corpses of police forces in Brazil, is rooted in the racist construction of the Brazilian state. So we have to remember that Brazil was the last country to abolish slavery legally. And this is actually proven, has some deeper consequences in the construction of public security in Brazil and also respect for human rights in Brazil. We have to say that after redemocratization and with the constitution in '88, we have seen in the 90s and in the 20s increasing process of mass incarceration in Brazil, police violence with the famous name is chacina, that we could say is like mass murder. So chacina, mass murders happening done by the police forces in the slums of Brazil, worldwide known as favelas. And the question of police violence in Brazil or institutional violence in Brazil cannot be separated from the racist question. No, the victims of police violence in Brazil and of mass incarcerations in Brazil, the subject of all discourse, hate discourse in Brazil that was particularly characterized by then President Jair Bolsonaro, is at the center. So we have the victims are poor Black people coming from the poorest parts of the city. So we cannot talk about political violence or institutional violence without thinking about structural racism. I know that in some English-speaking countries, sociologists use the term systemic racism, but in Brazil, we have had a lot of scholars, and I'm citing here Silvio Almeida, that is a professor here in Brazil, that talks about structural racism in Brazil. And so I think this is the notion, the concept I would like to use here. In the last pandemic year, in the last period, we have seen also mass murders going on by the police in Rio de Janeiro against a constitutional decision, a constitutional protective measure that was saying that the police could not enter favelas in Brazil during the pandemic period. And this was not only disrespected, but they did the biggest mass murder of the Brazilian democratic history in the favela of Jacarezinho and Complexo da Penha in Rio de Janeiro. So we are seeing this conflict. Democracy in Brazil is not only a question of political parties, it's a question of conflict among a lot of social forces in which police bodies are actually important political force, not techniques or workers, as sometimes we like to think. I would also to say that this question was not, the question of police violence was not specifically addressed during the election campaign. We know that Bolsonaro has made a lot of racist speeches all along his career, but actually the question of how to deal with public security or how to respect democracy, democratic public security was not a center of the electoral campaign. But I would like to point that at the victory speech of Lula said openly that racism is the biggest problem. He mentioned racism and Amazonia. So we connected the two speeches, mine and Tyler. So that racism is the most dramatic problem of Brazilian history and reality. And structural racism is something that has to be fought directly. And this is something that we haven't heard in the last at least 4 years, if I don't have to say more. Secondly, just to wrap up, the question of racism also exploded during the elections, because after the first vote, so the first ballot, before the ballot, so the first voting on the 2nd of October, a lot of votes for Lula came from the northeast of the country. And this gave room for a lot of racist speeches in Brazilian state that, as Fernando told you, we cannot think of Brazil as one thing, is a federal state. So a lot of speeches, racist speeches and xenophobic speeches against Northeast populations, like they are poor, they are communist, they are rats. No? So we have with a political, very violent and racist discourse, not checked up during the elections, not punished, not anything at all. So this, I would like to suggest that has to be traced during Brazilian history and not only in the last elections. However, the last elections show the most dramatic parts of it, at least in the political discourse and the electoral debate. Okay, I would like to finish here. I hope I didn't pass so much of my 10 minutes, or I hope I was shorter. You know, for Italians, it's always difficult to wrap up things. I'm very bad at it. We like to talk a lot, but I will give now room for Tyler, and then we will start our debate. I would just like to remember that you can write questions or comments in the chat.
Okay, good afternoon. I would like to thank you for this opportunity to share a bit of what's happening in Brazil, which is not easy because it's a huge and complex country. So we could speak about all these conflicts we are living for hours, but still I will try to explain you a bit of Amazon issue. I will share my screen. I hope you are now seeing this map. And so actually I want to start from the conclusion. I would like to say that if it was not for the native population or original population, especially the indigenous one, we would not have Amazon anymore. Of course, not just the indigenous people, but also Quilombola people, which are the descendants from people who survived the slavery. Also caboclos and ribeirinhos, which are other examples of traditional population we have here, connected to the rivers, connected to the sea, which are very important in Amazonic region. So it's very important to say this and to repeat this, that these people are fighting for their lives and also for the preservation of Amazon. If it was not for them, we would not have the Amazonic, the Amazon preserved anymore. So that means that this kind of population here, the native population in Brazil, they are facing a lot of different conflicts. They are facing conflicts with mining, legal or illegal mining, whatever it has. Both of them have a lot of consequences, bad consequences. They are facing conflicts with the absence of public policies. So they're facing also poverty. They are facing state violence connected to racism, as Fiammetta was saying. They are facing conflicts, of course, with genocide for centuries. They are facing conflicts because of deforestation. They are facing conflicts because of agribusiness. They are facing conflicts because of the invasion of their official and legal reserved territory. So they're facing a lot of conflicts just to survive. And of course, because of these, the way they live, we are still having Amazon somehow preserved. This first map here, we have this area that we call legal Amazon. So we have the map of Brazil, but the Amazon is located in the north of Brazil. We have, of course, Amazon in other countries too, such as Peru and Colombia, Venezuela. But here in Brazil, the Amazonic energy, the Amazonic atmosphere and biosphere is connected to the north of the country. and also a bit with the center of the country. And in this border here of Maranhão, we have also a bit of Northeast. It's very important to understand some of the things I want to show you. This is the map of the presidential elections, the results. So in red, we have votes for Lula, and in blue, we have votes for Bolsonaro. In this map, we can see clearly that the center of Brazil and the south of Brazil, they have the most voters for Bolsonaro. And the Northeast is red, so the Northeast gave the most votes for Lula. But the problem is that these votes for Bolsonaro, they are here in the center and they go up to the north. So somehow we see here, especially in Pará, which is the country I was born and which is the country where my family lives, we have a lot of problems here, a lot of connected problems connected to this mentality that is expanded because of Bolsonaro government. I want to show you very fast a lot of maps. I hope we have the time. So we have here maps for agribusiness and mining, which are huge environmental problems and social problems we have here in Brazil. First, the agribusiness, you see that it's almost the same map as we have for Bolsonaro's votes. Here we have the blue one, the blue region, focused on the center of Brazil and going up to the north. And here in this agribusiness map, we have almost the same results. So the agribusiness is also focused on the center of Brazil and going up, especially to the state of Pará. And here, the mining map, you see more or less the same problem. You see that the mining is focused on the north of Brazil. The north of Brazil now, the region where Amazon exists the most, is where the mining is focused. I want to show you a work of a photojournalist I like very much. I will send you the link in the chat so you can check it better later, because it's everything in English. You see some images, you see some information about the mining in Brazil, especially in the north, in the Amazonic region. So here you say that here you see the maps combined. The map for the elections, the map for agribusiness, and the map for mining. These problems are connected. So Bolsonaro's mentality, Bolsonaro's government is totally connected to the environmental problems and the social problems of agribusiness and mining in Brazil, which are causing a lot of bad consequences for our native population, which are responsible for the preservation of Amazon. These maps, they show some moral issues about the elections and how Brazil is divided right now. This map in pink, actually the colors are not very nice, but I think you can have like a idea of what's happening. This map in pink is showing that the gun supporters here in Brazil, people who are supporting connections with the guns, they are also focused on the center of the country. So the same region where are the supporters for Bolsonaro, and the agribusiness again, and the mining again. And this green map, in this green map, you see the evangelicals. It's about religion. So you see the evangelicals are focused on the north of Brazil, on the Amazonic region. So you have this moral issue very strongly connected to Amazonic area. Here in Brazil, we have the biggest religions we have are the evangelicals and the Catholics, and the evangelicals. We have a lot of more complicated issues related to this kind of religion, and the fact that they are connected to the north, it's a big issue, social issue for us, because it has a lot of consequences again to this native population, because they practice other kinds of religion, they have other way of living, and sometimes these things they call a lot of conflicts in this region, especially. In this map here, you can see some of the indigenous legal reserved areas. Here in Brazil, we have some of the land of some of the indigenous population. They are organized legally. So these people are occupying this space legally. But the thing is that because of agribusiness again, and because of mining again, especially the illegal activities connected to these practices, they are invading these spaces. So the indigenous people are trying to survive these invasions also. We see that the maps and the researchers are showing us that the places where Amazon is most is still most like nature as it was in the beginning. The places are exactly where these indigenous people live. So these green areas here, you see in the map in the north of Brazil, are mostly where the Amazon is most preserved because of the connection with these legal indigenous areas, which again you see in these other maps. You see the problem connected again. This I will send you in the chat for you to check these pictures better. Deforestation is also a huge problem. Of course, everything is totally connected. In this map here, you can see year by year how deforestation was growing or decreasing. And in this other map also, the truth is that in Lula's government, we have a decrease of 70% of deforestation in the Amazonic area. In the first years of Lula's government, the first government, it increased. You can see here more or less in 2002, when Lula first assumed as a president. First it increased and then it started to decrease. So in Lula's government, we saved Amazon for about 70%. But then in Bolsonaro's government, of course, we have had this huge disaster. Bolsonaro has no compromise, is not compromised anyway with environmental issues. Now we are having, for example, the COP27, and Lula was invited and Bolsonaro was not invited. So we have huge expectation for this third moment of Lula as a president of Brazil. The people here are saying that, for example, Lula just announced that he's going to create a ministry for original people, native people in Brazil. This is very important for us because, as I'm trying to show you, everything is connected. If you take care of our native population, it means that you are taking care of the environment. It means that you are taking care of Amazon. And we don't have much time to organize everything again. Yeah, Bolsonaro's government basically destroyed all the institutions we had to preserve this area and to take care of our native population. Bolsonaro actually criminalized some of the researchers, some of the technical workers from, for example, FUNAI, which is a very important foundation in this issue of native population. So yeah, we have had 4 years of huge environmental and social disaster here because of this mentality that Fernando, for example, was showing you. It's not just because of Bolsonaro itself, but because of this whole mentality that we are supporting here in Brazil. Some people are supporting here. Because of this whole mentality, our native population are suffer more. Our environment are suffer more. We are increasing racism against the Black population, but also against the native populations, the indigenous people. So to finish, I want to show you this picture. This picture is from the Munduruku people in the north of Brazil, in the Amazonic region, and they were very connected to the necessity of going to vote. So they rented 2 buses and tried to go to vote, but the roads were blocked. The roads were blocked, and in the day of the elections and the police blocked the roads. So they had a lot of difficulties to go to vote, but they did it. So this is very important this is very symbolic actually, because this population, they suffer a lot, but they're fighting a lot. So they are showing us like an example, a very strong example. Lula in COP27, I just told you. The Ministry of Native People, again, we are having the next year in this ministry for the first time in our history. And this is also very important. These people, Munduruku, they suffer a lot with the mining problem, a lot. Their territories are being invaded because of the mining, the illegal practices of mining, because also because of deforestation, all these bad practices we are having here, and they have no support for any kind of institution, because they are like destroyed because of Bolsonaro's government and this mentality we have here, as I was trying to show you with this moral issue maps. Still, I have a lot to speak, but we can do it together.